The furry community is a group that likes the concept of anthropomorphic cartoon animals. This group is known for its artwork, conventions, and especially its fluffy animal costumes. According to a survey by The Guardian, the furry population is between 1 million and 3 million people. Now, what exactly draws so many people to this strange and unconventional hobby? Well, many furries are nerds. Fans of sci-fi, fantasy, Disney movies, costume making, and anything under that creative umbrella. The community has a very diverse accumulation of people from all walks of life, from commercial astronauts to molecular biologists to, surprisingly, a lot of the IT and tech industry. A significant amount of people enjoy escaping into this world of cartoon animals and soft fursuits. The furry community is famously accepting and non-judgmental of almost all walks of life. A substantial amount of furries in the furry community fall under the queer or LGBT umbrella, along with a significant and overrepresented amount of neurodivergent folks. It's difficult to do surveys that calculate exact percentages of these people due to the fandom being so incredibly huge and expansive. But in my own personal experience, there's a lot more people who fall under these protected groups in furries than in the overall population. But in this video, I would love to highlight specifically the experiences of those who are physically disabled or neurodivergent. I would like to help better understand their personal experiences they face and how the fandom provides comfort for those who fall under these protected classes. I reached out to my audience on my Instagram to get an idea of what it's like to be a physically or cognitively disabled furry in the community to shine some light on their experiences. One user commented, "The furry community is more accepting of neurodivergent behaviors. Nobody would ever shame me for stimming at a furry convention." Another user writes, "I've always loved animals since I was a kid. When I found out about the fandom, I knew it would be perfect for me. I use it to cope with the stress of the world." Another user says, "I never have to show my face. People won't misread my facial expressions or see me stim." So a very common theme I've noticed amongst neurodivergent furries is that the physical costume is incredibly comforting. The sensory deprivation a fursuit can provide is warm and snug. It limits your vision and hearing. It's almost a form of compression therapy. Deep compression therapy is a technique already utilized. According to therapists, deep compression therapy or firm tactile sensory input can provide proprioceptive input to the entire body. Administering deep pressure through a firm hug, swaddling, weighted vest, or blanket could have a calming effect, potentially reducing stress and anxiety in autistic individuals, which wearing a costume or a fursuit seems to be a version of that kind of therapy. People also find that portraying a larger-than-life, colorful character is a social safety blanket. The pressure of having to maintain eye contact or mask with facial expressions isn't a concern when you're in a costume, which typically day-to-day neurodivergent folks already have to mask and do all these things all the time. But at a furry convention, where you're surrounded by artists and creatives and nerds who just let you express yourself freely and have the same interests as you, the environment is a lot safer. The security the furry community provides for this niche group is very noticeable. The furry community has also created a lot of innovative accommodations for those with physical disabilities that enjoy dressing up in costume. Many fursuit makers, for example, can add extra room inside the fursuit head for glasses, so you can still see when you're wearing your costume. Some fursuits have built-in zippers for insulin to give diabetic furries easy access to their medication. There are also plenty of fursuits made that can fit comfortably in wheelchairs. Also, partial fursuits come with just a head, paws, and tail. These types of fursuits can help with overheating, or those that cannot put their bodies under that much physical stress can still enjoy wearing a costume without overheating and getting heat stroke. Two incredibly awesome people volunteered to share their personal experiences as disabled folks in the furry community. I gave the participants a handful of questions that they can answer for me, which will be read and explained later in this video. But before I go into the interview segment, for those that aren't particularly versed with furry lingo or queer lingo, I'd like to share some quick definitions of terms that will be thrown around that might need some clarification. The terms AMAB or AFAB are abbreviations referring to assigned sex you are given at birth. So if someone is AFAB, they are assigned female at birth, and if they are AMAB, they are assigned male at birth. These definitions are based off of biological sex characteristics. So if someone is a cisgendered man, they are AMAB, but if someone is a transgender man, they are AFAB. Another term is a headless lounge. A headless lounge is a very bizarre term referring to a space designed for people in costumes at conventions. Essentially, they're private rooms filled with chairs and waters and fans for fursuiters to relax. If you're in a costume for hours at a time, it's nice to have an area where cosplayers can have some quiet, away from the crowds and the cameras. But essentially, it's a place where you can take your head off to cool down. So with all of that out of the way, I'd like to leave a quick disclaimer to please be kind to those in the video. Any rude or hateful comments will be deleted. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably not going to, but just wanted to put that out there. But yes, the first guest on my channel is Frost. He will be sharing his experiences from here.
Hi, I'm Frost, or better known as Frost Art Studios, or Arctic Frost Heart. I am a fursuit dancer and a fursuit maker. I do have autism and ADHD and a plethora of other disorders. I will like to highlight my PNES, seeing as that disorder is not as well known. But yeah, so I have PNES, which is psychological non-epileptic seizures. I don't have grand mal. Most people, when they think of seizures, they think of grand mal. I don't have that. I am fully conscious during my seizures. I'm aware of everything going around me. It fully depends on if I have my eyes closed or open. The severity will also vary as well. Sometimes I just lose my legs and I won't be able to move them and they will shake very slightly. It's hard for most people to notice. Or I'll lose my hands, or I could lose my whole body. In these events, you need to get the suit off of me. I cannot have my head on and paws on. If my whole body goes, the only thing that I can use to communicate is blinking, which is not fun. I don't recommend it, but I need that as an accommodation. My suit, I'll be giving it better vision and better ventilation because I've noticed I cannot suit for a very long time because having any stress on my body can cause my seizures to be worse. So my heat tolerance is down the drain. I don't typically share a lot about my disability on my business account, but on my personal account, I sometimes will go into it because it's important that people know more about my disorder. I would love to get research or be a part of research for PNES because there's so little known about it. But PNES, typically the people who have it are AFABs with some sort of PTSD. I have complex PTSD, but that's typically the people who get this disorder, and even then you're not guaranteed to get it. I only developed it because my body doesn't know how to handle stress, and I was bottling shit up, which don't do. 0 out of 10, don't recommend that. But yeah, that's more about my disorder. And then for summary of what I kind of would like for the fandom to change and like accessibility wise, I would love for people to use more dyslexic friendly fonts. Sometimes I struggle reading posts due to my dyslexia, like texts specifically on Instagram. I've run into this problem where someone will be trying to sell something and they're using a font that I struggle to read. So there is dyslexic friendly fonts. I love them. I try to use them when I can. I am at fault for this one as well, and I'm trying to do better about that. Another thing that I would love to see changed in like convention spaces is actually paying attention to if someone is down. In 2021 at Denver, I could not make it to the Headless Lounge. I got too hot, I overheated, which caused my stress to go up. So I was just out with my head off. From an outsider's perspective, I was going in and out of consciousness. There were a couple people who stopped and were like, hey, do you, like, here, drink some water. And I was with friends, but I wish that more people, when they saw that, went over to my friends and were like, hey, is he okay? Like, instead of just walking by. We should be checking on people, especially fursuiters. Even if they're not a fursuiter, we should check on people who are like sitting and like their head's going down, or if they're laying completely on the ground, we should be checking them more often, because what if they are passed out? What if they are having a seizure? What if they are having heat stroke? I feel like as a fandom, we need to be better about that. But at the same time, I understand there's limitations. What I've experienced at cons, the staff have been fantastic when it comes to mobility issues and giving me and a lot of my friends disability badges, like little stickers on our badge that says we get ADA access, which was fantastic last year. And the year before that, for me, that was fantastic. I don't know if other cons other than Denver do that, but if they don't, I would highly recommend having that be in place, because that is fantastic. And if you are not disabled and you're watching this video, do not abuse that system, please. That system is for disabled people who are using mobility aids, who need a little more time. Like, please don't abuse that system. But that is something I wish that more cons implemented. And we're like, hey, we do have ADA stuff. If you need it, just ask us about it. But yeah, that's mostly everything.
The next furry interviewed goes by Ashton, who is neurodivergent and has auditory processing issues. I'll let them continue from here.
So I originally grew up with Disney a lot. Zootopia obviously was the one that got me into creating, and through further exploration on the internet during the beginning of my teenage years, I felt like there was a lot of overlap also with the My Little Pony community, with like all the OCs, the pony sonas. There was a lot of that in the furry fandom, so it looked like a lot of fun. So I definitely got into it. I absolutely feel like I have to hide my true self in regular social settings, mainly because a lot of people use sarcasm to the point where I can't really tell that it's sarcasm because of my autism, and some people talk very fast or very low, or just don't like repeating things, which makes things really hard for my auditory processing issues. And on top of that, I just feel like all the media I'm into, I'm hyper-focused on Disney movies and animals and animal science, so when that happens, I'm just kind of left in an island where I'm just kind of left dead in the conversation because everybody's talking about the latest drama or like just something that's probably interesting to them, but I just personally don't relate to. I have been to a convention, many actually. Most of them were comic conventions with my uncle, but lately I have been to 2 or 3 furry conventions, and I'd say they're pretty accommodating, like as much as a con can be, like that doesn't know I have those needs. The only thing I'd say is like some other people that might be in cosplay or especially fursuit, they might not want me to have them repeat certain things because sometimes their speech is muffled under their suit or under their mask, and I can't hear, and I feel really bad for it, but I have to ask them to repeat because of my auditory processing issues, and they'll get kind of annoyed and be like, oh, never mind. But that's more of an individual problem than anything. As far as the actual conventions go, they're fun enough, and they're like casual enough that I can go to a space if I'm getting overwhelmed. And especially like in furry conventions with the headless lounges, those are really good for when you're overwhelmed. Comic conventions tend to be a bit more, how would I say, like hyper. Like furry conventions can be really hyper, but I feel like people are way more like eager to socialize with people that they don't necessarily need to socialize with. Like a lot of harassment, especially in like the human, like non-furry cosplay community, especially like the sexualization, the objectification of AFAB individuals. So yeah, there's that, but I'd say like as long as I let people know that I have certain issues, or like they understand that I might have anxiety, it's pretty easy to navigate a con. I do indeed have a fursuit. I definitely feel like I have more confidence in my suit, especially like for some reason wearing paws really helps me. Like I love stimming in my paws. For those who don't know what stimming is for this video, stimming is like a form of releasing energy through movement, especially repetitive movement, especially those with autism and other such conditions. So I love stimming with my tail and my paws, and I love like wiggling my fursuit head around while wearing it. I just feel like a silly, goofy little animal, and it's fun. So in fact, one of my fursonas, actually, I have a couple. One of my fursonas does represent my disability, or at least aspects of it. His name is Ziggy. He is a striped hyena, and he kind of has these slightly floppy ears, and usually hyenas don't, especially striped hyenas, have these really bat-like upright ears, and I kind of wanted his ears to be a little bit floppy, not only because I thought they looked cute, but to kind of represent my auditory issues. And he has very sharp teeth, because very sharp, like little sticky out fangs, because I have like sensory issues when it comes to my teeth. Like I can really sometimes like hyper feel my teeth in my mouth. I feel like I have fangs a lot, so I added fangs to him. As for in-person convention spaces being accommodating, I definitely feel like people, like I get it, people can get kind of disheartened when you're trying to speak to somebody and they just absolutely cannot hear you and need you to repeat stuff or speak up. But for people like me with auditory processing issues, it's very hard to, especially when people are wearing their fursuit, to understand what they're saying sometimes. And I need really pronounced, loud, clear speech. And I've actually got a pin for myself from Etsy that says I have auditory processing issues, so people can know that. As for online spaces, it's obviously way easier to type because I don't have any vision issues, so I can see words way better than I can ever hear them or interpret them when I hear them. So there's that. What I would like to see changed in both parts of the communities, both in person and like online, is people just kind of giving people the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their in regards to disabilities. Like if I happen to take a joke, like a joke completely flies over my head and I respond to it seriously, not knowing it was a joke, and people are like, bro, chill, it's just a joke, why are you so sensitive? It makes me feel bad because I was just genuinely going with what I thought they said and meant, and I was trying to be genuine and earnest, and it was just completely shut down. I think a really important thing is to make sure, like, especially online, what are they called, like, tone tags are definitely good. Their tone tags are very helpful for me, and when other people even just put in parentheses joking or JK, LMAO, it definitely helps me understand, like, oh, okay, this is how I respond to this. I know this is a joke, or I know this is serious. So yeah. But that's basically all I have to say. Thank you so much for interviewing me. Yeah.
So, what have we learned? The furry community is used as a safe haven for those who might feel excluded in many social circles. They are generally a very accepting and accommodating for many neurological and physical disabilities, although not perfect, of course. Unfortunately, society as a whole is very harsh to disabled people. In the United States, there have been many hateful fabrications created and rumors spread about neurotypical people within the last few years. Our current Secretary of Health and Human Services claimed that no vaccine has ever been proven safe or effective, that the recommended vaccine scheduled for children is dangerous, and that autism comes from vaccines, which this is a rumor that came from a very unscientific research paper that was disproven decades ago, along with using terms such as full-blown autism, which is not a thing. Many people from the neurodivergent community don't like how the government is stigmatizing research for autistic individuals. More and more scientific research about autism has come out over the decades. For example, how autism is more likely inheritable or from the environment and far more complex of a neurological spectrum than originally believed. Also, the demonization of autism and the fear of your child potentially getting autism from a vaccine is scarier than your child dying from a very preventable disease like polio or measles, along with the government cutting DEI initiatives that are meant to help those who are disabled avoid hiring discrimination in federal positions. This could potentially increase employers dismissing disabled applicants for jobs. Although there are laws to prevent said discrimination, there's the Rehabilitation Act from 1973, which is a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities from federal agencies and government jobs, along with programs receiving federal financial assistance. Whether these laws already set in place will potentially be affected by the cuts in funding is a mystery for now, but it's worrying many people who rely on these accommodations that were fought and protested for decades ago. But nonetheless, people with disabilities feel like their conditions and needs have been weaponized by our government, providing more stress and social stigma around an already misunderstood community. If something as simple as a group of furries can help provide a safe and accommodating environment where people can feel free to express themselves without judgment, then that is something we should work and strive for. We, as a fandom, show that your disabilities or identity do not define you. You are praised for your skillfully drawn artwork, or your handmade fursuit costumes, or your creative mind or friendly dispositions. They go a long way in the community. The friends I've made in this community are very talented and loyal and incredibly friendly, and they make me want to pursue my own creative passions. If the furry community can strive to be more inclusive, accommodating, and supportive, it'll enrich our already creative community. But yeah, that's the rest of the video. If I've said anything that could be potentially incorrect or misspoke, please let me know. I'm doing the best I can to fact check and spread correct information. Also, please support the creators mentioned in the video. They deserve a ton of love, and I'd love to thank them so much for helping me make this video. Also, if you want to support me and my future content, I sell cute little furry pieces of apparel on my Etsy store. I've got tees, tank tops, and cute matching sun and moon hoodies. I've been selling them for a while, and I've gotten multiple people buying them, and so far no one's complained and they all seem to really like them. Let me know your experiences in the fandom and let me know what I should talk about next. Bye.